I mentioned earlier that my guest today is Professor Stephen Pickard. Stephen had a long and successful career in tertiary education and as a church leader. He's also written, as I said before, many of those books. He's currently the director of the Australia Centre for Christianity and Culture and join us today. Good to have you, Stephen.
It's lovely to be here, Keith.
Tell us what that's about. You know, it's a grand title. What's it about?
Well, it's about 21 years old now, and it's been there in the national capital as an effort by the Christian churches to re-engage with the issues of the day, whatever they may be, because we have a strong sense that right now there are many things troubling people in Australia. There's great spiritual hunger, there's significant confusion at times, and the church needs to find its voice again, but it needs to find a voice in a listening way and accompanying people and offering whatever wisdom it can for the common good. And so behind the centre is this vision for searching for a new wisdom for Australian society.
So if I put it bluntly, in a thinking way as well, it's not just a case of just rolling things out. You want to think it through.
Well, we want to think it through, but we want to engage with people in listening, and we want to engage with people with programs. We spend a lot of time bringing people together to the centre. For example, in the last year we've had 4,000 people that have visited the centre. Some of them are school children that come on retreats because there's 7 hectares there, and there's Bible gardens, there's labyrinths, there's pilgrim poles, there's a beautiful Christian emblem of the owl and the indigenous wall, and there's a pilgrim walk. So people come and walk around the place.
So what does your role involve?
Well, as Executive Director, my role is to help the development of programs, strategic directions for the place, but to be standing back from it and thinking, what are the issues that we need for the Christian church that it needs to attend to? For example, we do a lot of work on issues to do with refugees, asylum seekers, climate change, concerned about the Modern Slavery Act, humanitarian issues, foreign aid. There's any number of things which we think Christians need to find an authentic voice in Australian society.
You've had that long career of leadership in different ways. What's been the highlight of all that time?
Many, but in my deepest self, I think I'm a teacher. I love teaching theology. I remember as a young priest, my wife and I going for a walk in my very early parish where I was a curate. She said, well, what would you like to do? I said, I'd love to teach theology. Why? Because the search for truth captures me and excites me.
So you've walked right into this. What is the purpose of Christian education, and why is it so important that we do this?
Well, I think it's all contained in the word education. It's educare, to draw out, and to draw out the gifts and the wisdom that are in people and that God gives to people. And the teacher's role is to accompany them and to help unfold and help them discover the truth of the world and the truth of God's presence in the world in Jesus Christ. So the purpose of education is to build up the people of God.
And do you think there's an eagerness to do that amongst people?
I think there's a great spiritual hunger, Keith. I genuinely do. And the way we sidle up to people and to meet people where they're at is absolutely critical in the way people are drawn out and built up in their faith and their spiritual hungers are satisfied. So I think it's there in our society more than ever.
You've written a lot of books. How do you decide what you're going to write about?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What I've discovered is that most of the things that I write come out of my experiences and my engagements and my ministry that I'm called to. So sometimes I get worried about what happens when I retire, and do I cut the oxygen line off that gives me my creativity?
Or do you have more time then to give to it?
Well, that's my theory. I'm working on that.
That book, In Between God, just tell me a bit about that, because we've not got much time, but tell me about it, because I like the title.
In Between God is a book about the way the Spirit of God moves in our lives and in our society. And it's also a vision of Australia, we live on the edges of things, in between the ocean and the land and the sky. So that experience of human beings that Australians have is also mirrored in the way the Holy Spirit works in our lives, in between, always coming between us and others, building us and joining us and connecting us and taking us to new places. So the in-between God is exactly how the Spirit of Christ works in the world.
And the Spirit obviously still empowers you and inspires you to keep going on.
Well, without the Spirit of God, there is no energy for life. We say in the great creed, the Lord, the giver of life, the Spirit.
Thanks for sharing your story. What motivates you as you look to the future?
I think the question that motivates me more than ever is the question of hope. Where do we place our hope? What may we hope for? It's not just my question, it's many people right now. And what motivates me is that there is a hope in the living God who holds all things through the difficulties and the traumas and the experiences of life.
Stephen, thanks ever so much for talking with me. Keep enthusiastic, keep the vision before you, and we look forward again to hearing how that work is moving forward.
It's been a pleasure to be with you, Keith.
It's my pleasure.